I lost in 14 seconds. I was on the losing side of making history.
She wasn't just another fighter. She was a storm. Kat Zingano rose, fell, and stood again. Her name isn't just in the win column. It's carved in the walls of MMA history. Early years. Kat Zingano was born on 1982 in Winona, Minnesota, not exactly the fight capital of the world. Her early life was far from privileged. She didn't grow up surrounded by opportunity. She had to claw her way to everything. But somewhere in the grit of those early years, she found something that most girls didn't even consider: wrestling. In high school, she stepped onto the mat when most girls stayed in the stands. But Kat wasn't most girls. She dominated quickly, not just with technique, but with raw, unfiltered drive. That fire followed her into college, where she became a national champion in women's wrestling. Her dedication was unmatched. While others coasted, she grinded. Her work ethic was brutal. Her mindset, even more ruthless. But Kat wasn't satisfied with trophies. She wanted more blood, more pressure, more pain, more war. That's when she met Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And shortly after, MMA. She didn't stroll into her first gym with curiosity. She charged in like she was already in round 2. Birth of son. In 2006, everything changed, not in a cage, but in a hospital room. That's when Kat gave birth to her son, Braden. And just like that, she became something else, a mother. And if you know Kat, you know she never took that role lightly. For her, motherhood wasn't a phase or a break from fighting. It was the reason she fought. Even when deep in training camps, she brought Braden with her. There are photos of her throwing punches while her son plays on the gym floor. She always said, "He's my why." And that wasn't just a quote. It was the core of everything. Most fighters juggle pressure. The cage wasn't her escape. It was part of the world she was building for her son. The road to professional MMA. By 2008, it was time. Enough training. Enough waiting. Kat stepped into her professional MMA debut with something to prove. And she delivered, winning by submission. Then came another fight. There was no fluke here. This wasn't hype. This was something bigger. A storm was forming, and the fight world began to feel the pressure change. She fought because something inside her demanded it. And the message was clear. Kat Zingano was here, and she was nothing short of dangerous. Relationship with Mauricio Zingano. But beyond the cage lights, beyond the press conferences and weigh-ins, there was another fight and another fighter in her life. Mauricio Zingano, a fellow martial artist, a coach, and her husband. He wasn't just her partner in love, he was her partner in war. Together, they built a gym, a business, a brand, a life shaped by discipline and sweat. Triumph and rise. A date that changed everything. The first woman to win a UFC fight that headlined a card. It wasn't just about the title shot ahead. It was about the message behind that moment. Kat Zingano belonged on the biggest stage. A crumbling relationship and Mauricio's suicide. While the world focused on her comeback, behind the scenes, things were falling apart. By 2014, the weight of everything, the pressure, the training, the parenting, the public eye began to crack her foundation. Her relationship with Mauricio, once strong, was now strained. They separated, reconciled, tried again. But some wounds don't heal. And some love stories don't survive the fight. On January 13th of 2014, Mauricio Zingano took his own life. No warning, no goodbye, just silence.
I started my conditioning and I was only a few minutes in. there's like these 10-inch hurdles. It was very standard, very collected jump squats. One time I just jump and it sounded like a plastic bottle being twisted. The only thing I could think of is like my title shot.
So as most of you must know by now, I hurt my knee.
But above all, Kat, she had to tell their son, had to explain the unexplainable, bury her partner, and face the fact that the strongest man she knew was gone. She disappeared after that, from the cage, from the cameras, into the kind of darkness no spotlight can pierce. She later said, "That was the hardest fight I've ever faced." And it didn't come with a referee or rounds. It came with grief. And it lasted years. Why she's no longer fighting. Some fighters return from injury. Some from loss. Kat Zingano came back from devastation. She re-entered the cage first in the UFC, then Bellator. Still sharp. Still lethal. But something had shifted. The fire was still there, but it burned different. Not with rage. With purpose. She began speaking publicly about mental health. About surviving the kind of fights people don't train for. She started building something beyond her fight record, a legacy rooted in healing and mentorship. Today, she runs her own training programs, coaches young fighters, lifts up others the way she once needed someone to lift her. And above all, she raises her son, the kid who once sat at the edge of the mat watching his mother become a legend. She didn't leave fighting because she couldn't take the hits. She left because she had taken too many. And because now she fights for something bigger.
Trying to lead by example as far as my family now is it's a constant struggle every day. And some days I withdraw, some days I'm very antisocial. I use, different things to avoid and distract myself from feeling the things I need to feel, and some days I just need to completely unplug and feel everything and go through the emotions because, it is the healthiest thing I can do to improve my situation when I myself have had struggles with depression.
Kat Zingano isn't just a name etched on fight posters or a stat on a website. She's a story of resilience, of raw pain. She stood toe-to-toe with legends. She faced loss most people can't imagine. She raised a son with love and grit. And through it all, she never stopped swinging. So if you think fighting is just about knockouts and belts, think again. This is Iron Arena, where we tell the stories that hit harder than any punch. So subscribe. Stick around. Because sometimes the real fight happens in the silence between rounds.
Hey, look, a new subscriber.